Most men, even those who have been in committed, intimate relationships for decades, carry a massive blind spot. It is a blind spot that directly impacts the most private, vulnerable moments they share with their partners. Now, let's be clear from the very beginning. This doesn't happen because men don't care. In fact, the vast majority of men care enormously about their partner's experience. They want to be good partners. They want to provide pleasure, comfort, and connection. The real issue is that nobody has ever sat them down and explained, clearly, clinically, and without awkward euphemisms, what is actually happening inside a woman's body and mind during intimacy, specifically during the moment of penetration and the critical minutes that follow it. This blind spot has consequences. They aren't usually dramatic or loud. Instead, they are quiet, cumulative consequences. Over years, or even decades, a subtle gap begins to develop. It is the gap between what a man thinks is happening for his partner and what she is actually experiencing. It manifests as a series of tiny misalignments in pace, in attention, in physical presence. Over time, these small misalignments slowly erode the quality of an intimate experience that could have been genuinely profound for both people. Today, we are closing that gap. On this channel, we decode the hidden dynamics of human behavior, and today we are focusing on the silent language of physical connection. We are going to walk step by step through the physiological sequences, the neurochemical shifts, and the deep psychological dimensions of trust that govern a woman's experience. We will explore exactly what she is feeling in those moments, sensations she may have never found the right words to describe to you. More importantly, we are going to look at what this scientific reality means for how you show up, how you move, and how you connect. If you want to understand the unspoken laws of attraction, intimacy, and human behavior, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now, turn on your notifications, and drop a like on this video. Let's dive straight into the science. To truly understand what a woman experiences during penetration, you must first understand the physiological baseline her body requires before that moment even occurs. Penetration experienced in a body that is fully, anatomically prepared is a fundamentally different universe compared to penetration in a body that is rushed. The difference isn't subtle, it is absolute. Female arousal is not a psychological switch, it is a complex, time-dependent vascular and neurological sequence. For men over 50 or 60, understanding this sequence is quite literally the most vital piece of relational knowledge you can possess. The entire process begins in the brain. When physical or emotional stimulation occurs, the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system takes over. This is the rest and digest system, the exact opposite of the stress-induced fight or flight response. The moment the parasympathetic nervous system activates, it drives a massive increase in blood flow directly to the pelvic region. This vascular engorgement is the absolute engine of everything that follows. As blood fills the pelvic tissue, the clitoral complex, which is vastly larger than the small external tip visible on the outside, begins to swell. This complex includes internal structures known as the crura and the vestibular bulbs, which run directly alongside the vaginal walls. When these structures become engorged with blood, the sensitivity of every single nerve ending in the pelvic bowl increases exponentially. Simultaneously, two critical physical transformations must happen: transudation, lubrication. The increased blood pressure in the pelvic capillaries forces a clear fluid through the vaginal walls. This isn't just a sign of arousal, it is a structural, functional requirement for comfortable movement. Vaginal tenting. This is perhaps the most misunderstood anatomical event. Under full arousal, the upper portion of the vaginal canal relaxes, lengthens, and expands outward. The uterus actually shifts upward, lifting the cervix away from the vaginal opening. This tenting effect is non-negotiable. If penetration occurs before this expansion happens, the penis will make direct contact with a low-sitting, unshifted cervix. For the vast majority of women, direct cervical impact ranges from deeply uncomfortable to sharply painful. Furthermore, the pelvic floor muscles, which naturally maintain a baseline level of tension to support the internal organs, must actively choose to relax. This relaxation allows the vaginal opening to soften and become welcoming. Here is the clinical truth. This muscular release is not entirely involuntary. If a woman does not feel psychologically safe, or if she feels rushed, those pelvic floor muscles will remain guarded, tight, and resistant, no matter how much she might consciously want to please her partner. This entire sequence takes time. In young adults, it can take a few minutes, but as the body matures into the 50s, 60s, and beyond, hormonal shifts like menopause alter the speed and elasticity of these tissues. For a mature woman, achieving full vascular engorgement, complete tenting, and total pelvic floor relaxation routinely requires anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes of deliberate, unhurried, responsive stimulation. When a man rushes this process, often driven by his own anxiety about maintaining an erection or an internal clock that says, let's get to the main event, he is inadvertently ensuring a less satisfying, potentially uncomfortable experience for his partner. The time spent in anticipation is not the warm-up act. It is the foundation upon which the entire experience succeeds or fails. When penetration finally occurs within a fully prepared body, the neurological reality is incredibly intricate. Most men view penetration through a highly localized lens. They focus primarily on the physical sensation on the penis itself. But for a woman, the neural feedback loop is distributed across multiple systems at once. The moment of entry triggers the dense cluster of nerve endings located at the opening of the canal. Because the internal vestibular bulbs are already swollen with blood, the physical presence of the partner presses these internal structures against the vaginal walls from the inside. This means that proper penetration creates an indirect internal stimulation of the entire clitoral network. This is why women describe the sensation of full intimacy not just as surface pleasure, but as a profound feeling of fullness and grounding. Surface stimulation is exciting and electric. Internal stimulation, when properly prepared, feels stabilizing, deeply centered, and intensely immersive. But the physical sensation is only half the story. The neurochemical shift that occurs in this moment is where the true silent language speaks. During a mutually desired, safe, and emotionally connected intimate encounter, the physical act triggers a massive surge of oxytocin in the woman's brain, often called the bonding molecule or the trust hormone. Oxytocin lowers social defenses, reduces anxiety, and creates a powerful psychological sense of oneness and security. Here is where psychology and biology fuse. The volume of oxytocin released is directly tied to how safe, desired, and emotionally valued she feels in that exact moment. If she senses that her partner is distracted, mechanical, or simply using her body for his own release, the oxytocin surge is blunted. The nervous system shifts slightly back toward a defensive state. But when she feels explicitly desired for who she is, in the body she currently has, the hormonal cascade is amplified. For women navigating the mature stages of life, this psychological safety carries an extra layer of importance. Society bombards women with toxic messages, suggesting that aging reduces their desirability. When a man approaches his partner with genuine, vocalized, and intensely focused desire for her exactly as she is today, he is doing far more than paying a compliment. He is signaling to her deepest nervous system that it is safe to drop her guard, safe to be vulnerable, and safe to open up completely. Translating this clinical science into actual real-time behavior boils down to three simple, powerful pillars: pace, attention, and consistency. 1. Pace. The absolute first requirement during the initial moments of penetration is an unhurried, deliberate slowness. This is not about being timid or passive. It is about respecting the laws of anatomy. Even when a woman is highly aroused, her pelvic tissues need a moment to accommodate, stretch, and welcome physical presence. The first movement should be shallow, gentle, and static. Pausing for a few moments allows the neuromuscular receptors in the pelvic floor to adapt. Gradually deepening the connection over the span of 1 to 3 minutes allows her body to respond with further relaxation rather than a sudden protective contraction. Rushing this transition turns a beautiful, continuous gradient of sensation into a harsh, sudden event. 2. Attention. During intimacy, a man's attention can easily get trapped inside his own head. He worries about his performance, he monitors his physical stamina, or he focuses entirely on his own localized pleasure. To truly connect, you must shift your radar entirely outward. Your partner's body is constantly broadcasting her internal state through a silent, clear language. You just have to read it. The breath. Her breath is your real-time GPS. Deep, slow, rhythmic, or heavy breathing indicates that her arousal is climbing and her nervous system is in a state of deep parasympathetic trust. If her breath catches, becomes shallow, or if she holds it, her body is signaling a subtle distress, a lack of lubrication, discomfort, or a pace that is moving too fast. The muscles. Pay attention to the subtle tension in her hands, her thighs, and her pelvic floor. A body that is pulling you closer, melting downward, and moving fluidly with you is a body that feels safe. A body that becomes perfectly still, rigid, or subtly backs away is a body that is asking you to slow down, adjust the angle, or return to reassurance. 3. Consistency. This is where many men inadvertently derail an experience right at the finish line. As a woman's arousal builds toward a climax, her neural pathways lock into the specific pattern of stimulation she is receiving. Her brain is processing a very precise combination of rhythm, depth, angle, and pressure. When a man senses that his partner is getting close to an orgasm, his natural instinct is often to speed up, apply more pressure, or change the movement to make it more intense. This is a critical mistake. Introducing sudden novelty or shifting the rhythm at that peak moment completely disrupts the neurological pattern her brain was tracking. It can instantly reset her arousal clock, leaving her frustrated. When she indicates that she is close, your only job is to become a metronome. Do not speed up. Do not change the angle. Do not try a new technique. Simply lock into the exact rhythm that brought her to that point and maintain it with absolute, unyielding consistency. The physical act of intimacy might end with release and separation, but the neurological experience does not. In fact, what happens after the physical connection is broken determines how the entire encounter is categorized in her long-term memory. Once intimacy concludes, the oxytocin levels in a woman's brain do not instantly vanish. They remain highly elevated for a significant period. This post-intimacy window is the moment of her greatest emotional vulnerability. It is the exact time when her nervous system asks a fundamental question. Was this a genuine moment of shared connection, or was I just a means to an end? When a man immediately pulls away, rolls over, checks his phone, or shifts instantly into practical, everyday logistics, he sends a jarring signal to her elevated oxytocin receptors. The sudden emotional drop-off causes her nervous system to flag the experience as potentially unsafe. Over time, if this pattern repeats, her body will learn to protect itself by refusing to fully open up during the next encounter. Conversely, a man who understands the silent language knows that the minutes following intimacy are incredibly valuable. Remaining close, maintaining skin-to-skin contact, holding her hand, and staying anchored in that quiet warmth for just 5 or 10 unhurried minutes acts as a massive reassurance to her nervous system. It tells her, in a language far deeper than words, that the connection is real, that she is safe, and that she is deeply valued. This is where men over 50 and 60 have a monumental advantage over younger men. The urgency, frantic energy, and performance anxiety of youth often cause younger men to hurry through or completely ignore this afterphase. With age comes emotional maturity, perspective, and the capacity for genuine, unhurried presence. Capitalizing on this window is the ultimate hallmark of a truly sophisticated, deeply skilled partner. Ultimately, exceptional intimacy in a long-term relationship has very little to do with athletic performance or complex techniques. It is entirely about understanding, presence, and attunement. When you strip away the myths, the cultural noise, and the performance pressures, what remains is a beautiful biological reality. A woman's body requires time to prepare, a deep sense of psychological safety to open, absolute consistency to peak, and a lingering, warm presence to feel complete. When you learn to read these subtle shifts, the changes in her breath, the releasing of her muscles, the emotional vulnerability of her gaze, you stop operating blind. You close the gap that pulls so many couples apart, and you step into a level of connection that actually deepens as the years roll on. That is the power of mastering the silent language. If today's breakdown gave you a fresh perspective on human connection and behavioral design, make sure to smash that like button right now. It helps the algorithm share this message with other men who genuinely want to understand their partners better. Leave a comment below letting me know which part of this physiological breakdown surprised you the most. I dive into the comments to see exactly what resonates with you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to The Silent Language for your weekly masterclass in psychology, human behavior, and the unspoken rules of life. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.